Computer. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's mini series episode of Coping with Change. So this week we have a special guest, Sarah Skinner, who is a psychotherapist, and she's going to talk about, readjusting to life after COVID and kind of how to handle our challenging emotions effectively during this time. So thank you, Sarah, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So how we're going to do this is Sarah's going to answer 3 questions, and then we're going to do a little exercise. So Sarah, we're coming back. So there's been so much change. We have, we're in our everyday routine, going about our lives, and then all of a sudden we're asked to stop doing everything that we know and stay indoors. And, there's been a lot of in the press about COVID, and it is scary, reading all the articles, and now we're just being told time to go back again. And I know myself, I'm feeling like a little bit of anxiety around this, certain things like, how will this look now? Am I following, the restriction guidelines? There's so many things that come up about going outside again. So what would you feel the emotional challenges are that we're dealing with during COVID?
Yeah, well, I think there's plenty of them really, and I think we all are feeling them. I suppose one of the obvious ones really is kind of uncertainty and anxiety about all of the change, the threat of the virus. So definitely the fear and anxiety, I think, is real for everyone, and stress as well. All of that change and all of these kind of new concerns are very stressful. So even just that tension and stress on the body too. And then one that maybe isn't as obvious, but I think a lot of people are feeling, is there's a real grief and sadness about, all of the life that we did have, which we've kind of lost now. Like loss is a part of any change, because you're losing the old way things were, or the old relationship, or whatever it is that's changing, and you're having to adjust to something new and different. So I think there's a lot mixed up for all of us, and I think it's different on different days as well. There's so much going on that we might be feeling fine one day, and the next day we might be feeling very tense and kind of wound up. The next day we could be feeling quite sad and low. So I think there's a lot of challenges for all of us really at the moment.
So how do you feel these emotional challenges, that we were faced with coming into COVID, how do you think they might change now that things are opening back up again?
Well, I think in one sense, I mean, when we all were asked to stay at home, one of the biggest challenges is isolation and not having any structure around you. You are kind of, you have to give yourself routine to give yourself any structure, and you also might not have contact with people like you did before. But at the same time, you could kind of live in a bubble. We all could protect ourselves to a certain extent, and our home environment are, a place that is really ours. So it's quite a safe place, I think, for a lot of us, which helps us kind of cocoon from all of the uncertainty that's going on outside. So one of the challenges is definitely, now that we're having to step outside of that safety and that comfort, the anxiety and the stress might become a bit more real, a bit more obvious. We might not be able to shelter ourselves from them like we did before. And human beings, we're social creatures, so we really pick up on other people's emotions and other people's stress, and there's a lot in the air at the moment. So again, it's one thing when you can shelter yourself at home, you might be dealing with 1 or 2 people in your family or whoever you're living with, but when you're out and about and there's much more people around, you might be a bit more kind of sensitive to that stress and anxiety that's around at the moment.
So what do you think would be a useful place to start? Because I guess we're all starting from this place. Like as a nation, we're all on the same kind of wavelength in terms of, uncertainty, what's going to happen. So we're all going to be faced with this. For someone who is feeling, and I know we all will be feeling certain different levels like stress and anxiety, when those kind of emotions come up, how can we harness them and deal with them effectively so we can move forward and do, you know, that training course we really want to do, get back into work, even going to see friends and family. Like, you know, these difficult emotions are going to arise. How can we kind of harness them in a way that's helpful to us so we can have that meaningful life that we want?
Yeah. In a way, it's a really good time to practice the difficult feelings, isn't it? Because they always come up, but they're just more present, maybe. Well, I think that the first thing definitely that I would suggest is really being able to come down into your ground. So your ground is your legs, your feet, and your hips. And, you know, that's the part of us that is in connection with the earth. It's where we kind of get our strength and our stability. So when we're feeling very anxious or overwhelmed or stressed, being able to drop down and come back down into that steadiness is very supportive. You know, we might be then better able to manage whatever is kind of swirling around in us. And the other thing I would say is your breath. Your breath is always there, and it's one of the key things that kind of manages how you're feeling and what your kind of stress levels are and what your emotional state is. And it operates most of the time, we don't totally outside of our awareness, we don't realize it, but we can always take control of it. So if you feel that you're feeling stressed or anxious or really kind of irritable or whatever it might be, if you're able to take control of your breath and just breathe long deep breaths in, right down into your belly, into your hips, and long slow exhales, that will really help to calm your system. You might have to take a few, but if you're able to do those two things together, you know, just to pause and stop, recognize how you're feeling, come into your ground, into your legs and your hips, and be taking those slow, long, deep breaths. That should really help you kind of regulate yourself, help you calm a little bit. You might be able to deal with the feelings that are there. And I think to know what soothes you, you know, like we need to be able to support ourselves and soothe ourselves at the moment, because there is so much going on. So what really helps you to relax, or what helps you to calm down when things are difficult? You know, is it talking to someone? Is it having a bit of time to yourself? Is it a walk in nature? Is it some exercise? Whatever it might be, you know, really kind of noticing what supports you and what helps relax you. It might be a warm cup of tea, you know, and having those tools ready for when you do need them.
Just as we finish now, before we go into our exercise, is there anything else you'd like to say, or you want anyone to know? If there was one thing you could say, you know, on this video to get across to people out there who may be struggling, what would it be?
I think you're human. I think we all are at the moment, you know, so don't be worrying about it if you're finding it a bit difficult. I'd be more worried if you weren't finding it a bit difficult, to be honest. And don't feel alone in it. We're all in this together. It's such an unusual situation. Like, we're all kind of winging it to a certain extent. So really, it's just about supporting yourself with that. None of us are skipping down the road at the moment. So just, yeah, be kind with yourself and know that there's supports there if you need them.
Perfect. So we are going to do a little grounding exercise now. I think most people on our Facebook page would know this because I do it a lot, but I'm going to do it today in a very short way. So we're going to drop anchor. So this is an exercise by Dr. Russ Harris. So we're going to try it out now. So if everyone can get into a comfortable position, and if you can just kind of press your feet into the floor now, and just acknowledging as you're watching this video, any kind of thoughts or feelings that may be coming up for you now. And just labeling that thought or feeling or emotion. It could be pleasant or unpleasant. So it could be, here's sadness, here's frustration, here's joy. And then now, connecting with your body. So if you can imagine, I have a thermometer And I was to press it on one side of your cheek. And then the other side, which side would be warmer? So just scanning your face now. Just noticing where the air hits your face. And is one part of the face cooler than the other? The air on your eyelashes. Now taking a deep breath in through the nose. Right down into the belly. And just holding that breath for a moment. And then noticing the breath on the exhale. And breathing out through your mouth. Now we're just going to take a second to notice our posture. And pushing our feet into the floor once more. Feeling the soles of the feet pressing down. Now gently opening our eyes and just noticing 3 things we can see. I can see in front of me a wardrobe, the ironing board, and I'm noticing the paint on the walls. And just noticing 2 things that you can hear. Noticing the sounds in the room, my voice. Now taking another deep breath in and just seeing what you can smell. So this is anchoring, and you can do it any way you choose. And you can even do a shorter version of this. So when we think of anchoring, it's the ACE formula. So acknowledging the thoughts, kind of labeling them, so that increases your self-awareness, because actually a lot of us maybe might not be noticing it if an emotion or a feeling or a thought comes up for us. So just kind of labeling that. So if it is distressing, that it's kind of separate from you, kind of, creating that separation. And then C, connecting with the body. So as Sarah said, taking a deep breath in, grounding yourself, feeling your feet against the floor. And then E, coming back to the present moment, which is engaging with your environment, engaging with your surroundings. So that could be anything from looking around the room and noticing what you can see, noticing what you can hear, or noticing what you can smell or touch. So you can do this any way you like. You just have to do the 3. And even for the E, engaging with the environment, that could just even be 1 sense. So seeing around you. And you can kind of do this at any time where you might feel a bit stressed or anxious, and it really helps to kind of ground you and bring you back into the present moment and kind of make you feel more at ease.
Lovely, thanks, Gail.
So that is all for today. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I hope everyone has a wonderful week and stay safe.
Bye.